gonna happen on camera. About to begin. Second match here. Monsanto versus language hacker spell mage mirror.
There it is.
Excellent.
Dan,
I am
it's the
amused.
cat versus the hat.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Actually, Monsanto ditched his hat yesterday, so I don't know how much power his hat has left. It might be distraught by the fact that Monsanto threw it off his head in the final game of his series versus Briarthorn and won without it. So if I was the hat, I'd be feeling a little bit sad right now. Yeah, it's a Bluetooth hat.
Yeah, he had to plug it in because, you know, wireless, that just is how it is. You can't always just keep it on.
Yeah.
Look at that hand from Language Hacker. As Derek Brown just messaged us, the perfect hand.
That's right. That hand is very formidable.
Yow. Now, what does Monsanto want to play on turn 2? You actually could justify any 3 of the lines that you have with Primordial Studies, Wand Thief, Trick Totem, or Imprisoned Phoenix.
What to do?
I mean, it's in Canner's Flow here. You just play in Canner's Flow.
Right. Okay. So there's 4 lines to play that you're always considering. But let's say theoretically in this world where it doesn't happen very often, but a mage does not draw an Encanter's Flow on turn 2.
You play the Trick Totem and get in Canner's Flow.
Oh, I see.
Oh, Feral Rage. Oh, attack. No.
The armor, if you got the armor, actually would have been pretty lit. Not going to lie.
Actually would have been great for the matchup, honestly. But now, Monsanto already fighting from a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Without having the Canner's Flow, especially in this matchup when it becomes so one-dimensional. It's just your opponent operating with essentially multiple additional mana crystals every turn. Because of the discounts can sometimes be too much to overcome. Trick Totem, though. Still on the board. Still a threat.
It's true. The Trick Totem getting you anything from useless spells to turn to be able to throw Burn to the face.
4 attack again. Oh!
That's a keg W. Oh my goodness. Monsanto, after this turn, when you see what Language Hacker plays, I think a clap is in order. Agree?
Agree.
Language Hacker contemplating what he did yesterday. Was it the dinner that he ate? Was it the side of the bed that he slept on? Was it the cat onesie that he's wearing that has summoned this type of early game hand? He is, you know, all jokes aside, he is considering if there's anything else to do, because he could, for example, go for a deck of Lunacy and then Encanter's Flow. Because if you go into
Encanter's Flow, Arcane it.
Exactly. If you go for the Encanter's Flow first, you actually mess up not mess up, but you change the way the deck of Lunacy interacts with the existing spells and their mana cost. So there actually is consideration here of what he wants to do.
All right, deck of Lunacy it is.
I like it.
He's got the follow-up to it as well, right? Encanter's Flow, Arcane Intellect, reducing the already changed cards of Deck of Lunacy to make them even cheaper, and then having double Apexis Blast Fauna Power in hand after that to be able to like find you minions to place on the board if you have some dead draws from Deck of Lunacy, which happens, especially with one Encanter's Flow played prior. And then having some ways to just spend your mana to fight for board in that same situation with the Apexis Blast is also good, or having ways to finish the game. So,
yeah, and this is something that has been a point of discussion where it has felt like some players, even at the very highest level, are a little bit averse to playing things like Deck of Lunacy if they feel like they're giving up too much of their burn. Not recognizing as much the strength of just these randomly generated spells that are expensive but discounted after the Deck of Lunacy is played, and you just spend a lot more mana crystals than your opponent, at least the more mana that you should be getting. Oh wow, drawing card. All right, all this considered,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I don't think Trick Totem's going anywhere. Still more opportunity for shenanigans, which I like.
Yeah. Trick Totem must be protected at all costs. I am down. If Monsanto wins with this Trick Totem, I am down for him to cosplay as a Trick Totem next time we see him on camera.
Here it is. Look, the brim represents the horns. His arm represents the... What are those, wings?
That's right. Every play, he has to maintain the totem position, so you just watch him twist his body as opposed to move his arm, because he has to maintain the totem wingspan. I like it.
He just has to keep his arms tucked into his body with just his hands floating out.
Exactly.
Play Hearthstone like that. Oh. There's a lot of spell damage on board. He could just cash in right now if he wanted to.
It's true.
With the fireball.
It does feel a little bit bad to not play an Incanter's Flow here when you have 2 refreshing spring waters ready to go to start cranking out the cheap cost of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, it's something that I can't blame him for if he just wants to Apexis Blast phase. That's 7 damage.
Sword, shield, axe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Baron's Blacksmith.
Bamboozle!
Bamboozle!
It's the idea that the secret could represent a lot of things. We know it's Bamboozle. So Language Hacker has a lot of card draw. Acrobatics. These no dirty tricks. Consecration.
Okay. Also can play both, which means can draw 2 more cards from the acrobatics.
I'm cool with that. I kind of want to just draw more cards. What say you? I guess Language Hacker is also considering the possibility of just using a Apexis Blast here.
Yeah.
Baron's Blacksmith actually does pose to be quite a big threat when you use Consecration because of the Frenzy. I had forgotten about that.
Oh! Bamboozle!
Bamboozle turns into...
Is it alive? Oh, it's a voice. Oh, it's alive.
But he gets these Consecration afterwards. And the Trick Totem survives.
I mean, this Trick Totem is just getting there.
Yeah. I'm really hoping for like a lava burst to the face. Just one time for me.
I wonder.
Or like a Sinister Drake or something.
Or an Incanter's Flow. Still waiting for it. Still good.
It's still good. I still think that based off the way we set up this line, Monsanto could just play the Incanter's Flow next turn with the Refreshing Spring Waters. So you could instead play Blood Mage Thanos and Apexis Blast this turn. Okay, so he does want to commit to the Incanter's Flow. I'm okay with it. When we had it a couple turns ago, I was trying to figure out a way we can squeeze it in. But part of the reason why I felt like the Blood Mage Thanos and Apexis Blast makes sense is because you're just starting to threaten to kill your opponent. There's all these cute tricks with Deck of Lunacy. Just get him. Oh.
Just get him.
Runic Carvings with Arbor up? TJ, we're Token Druid now.
Still not like, okay, it's really good, but it's still not like game ending, right? It could be game ending with the second Arbor up in hand.
Yeah.
But Flame Strike is still a possibility at the moment.
Yeah. It's a possibility, but Monsanto hasn't played the Incanter's Flow. So if he doesn't draw it next turn, he doesn't have a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
At least from what we've seen. There could be something else that we're not thinking about. Oh my goodness. Libram of Hope. Arbor up. Perfect. board state for him to set things up, threatening a 2-turn lethal. Do you remember how you said that this wasn't threatening enough? Doesn't win him the game? Want to take any of that back, or?
No.
Hey, we respect the double down in Americas.
Yeah. I'm going down with Monsanto here.
Oh, yeah.
He's fine. Things are fine.
He said, sipping his coffee, surrounded by flames.
Yeah. What I more meant by it was, like, that's it, right? That's the hand. If that board got dealt with, there was nothing else.
Maybe the evolving missiles can do something here.
Well, he's not clearing anything off the board, so it has to be a lot of power removed. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
A big amount. I mean, he still has another Arbor up. Actually, a second evolving missiles might be more than he would want, because if he hits Silas, there's a pretty decent chance he increases the power on board. So he's just better off using Brain Freeze here. I like it.
Yeah. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 plus 10, 26 plus a Pex's Blast. That's lethal.
Cat does it. Texas Blast. Arbor up. And what looked like to be a situation where people weren't sure the performance of Deck of Lunacy. Once more, I come to you asking. A round of applause for the Spell Mage. I come to you asking once more, is Deck of Lunacy still not just the best card in the game when you pair it with the Incanter's Flow? I mean, Language Hacker gets rewarded for it, and it's again another case study that we can add to whether or not we should just be jamming Deck of Lunacy almost every single time we come into encounter with it, even at 4 mana. That was a very, very strong series of draws there from Language Hacker. Of course, anything could happen, right? We've seen people fizzle out. They get Deck of Chaos. They get really useless cards that don't affect them whatsoever. But either way, the moment Language Hacker had both of these Incanter's Flow and card draw as a recipe for success, you could argue that he would win either way, regardless of whether or not he's the Deck of Lunacy, because of what we saw transpire.
Yeah, there was essentially two lines of play, both that had very high win percentages, right? And Language Hacker just chose one that he thought might be higher in the long run, and might let him also have the ability to come back from a potential deficit, since his Monsanto did have like a slightly better early game without the Incanter's Flow.
I like the zoom. I like the zoom onto Monsanto's face when there's just no reaction. He's just looking left and looking right, contemplating what battery percentage his head's at. That's gonna do it for that first game. A good little summary of what we just witnessed. Shenanigans all the way down. Game number 2, Monsanto has the ability to queue up his Miracle Rogue here. Gonna go for it, featuring, of course, the combination of Alex Strauss at the very top with 10 move the Red Smoke, if he can get there, with a bunch of card draw and small little ways to collect value and tempo along the way. Rogue has been one of the Swiss Army knives of many formats, and in last year's standing, it is no different because of the way that you can outfit the Miracle Rogue in a couple of different ways. You can use it to respond to all different types of archetypes. Rogue has always been one of the more flexible classes, in all kinds of formats, and it kind of takes me back to see it in last year's standing where it could be used. At the same time, it feels like Rogue is slowly losing its grip week after week, TJ. You know, it started off as being one of the most popular classes on top of the other classes that were really strong for a while. And people were saying how it's just a really powerful class. Octobot can give you so many options. I feel like with each passing week, though, we've been kind of lowering it on the power scale just a tiny bit. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, obviously, you know, in Specialist, it wasn't a deck that you could really tech super hard in either direction. It doesn't have those crazy polarized matchups like some other decks in the metagame. So, it can be a deck that struggles from just being average, right? I mean, in the right hands, it's a very good deck, but it doesn't have like any particular scenario in Last Hero Standing where you're like, this is the time, this is when I'm going to play the deck, this is how I'm going to play the deck. And I think that's what it kind of suffers from in the current state. But, I mean, still a deck that can win against just about anything. Not having polarized matchups also works the other way, where it doesn't have these matchups that just absolutely destroy it. And, you know, with decent opening hands, again, can beat just about anything. So, Cold Neophyte opening, he does have Efficient Octobot Prize Plunder. I don't think he wants to leave his Efficient Octobot on the board in case of Devolving Missiles, so I like the fact that he's just going to try and activate it himself.
Yeah, it makes sense, and you know it's too valuable for him to not save that Efficient Octobot because of field contact in the hand as well. Language Hacker immediately going for the Font of Power and finds a Pexis Smuggler as his only playable minion on the following turn. There's Efficient Octobot with the Prize Plunder this turn. It sets Monsanto up for success moving forward, and he gets to push the tempo a little bit. So far, so good for Team Hat. Team Cat, an opportunity to strike back with perhaps a Brain Freeze setup this turn.
Yeah, still not really any like power turns coming up for Language Hacker, and that's concerning. Even with Encanter's Flow, doesn't have like the additional card draw outside of just one cram session. And Monsanto having the Octobot start. Ooh!
Yeah.
Oh, and he gets a Brain Freeze back too!
Yeah, that's huge. That's another card draw source.
Do you go for it this turn? Like Field Contact, Vanessa, and then Brain Freeze? Or Field Contact, Foxy Fraud, Vanessa, and then hold on to a Brain Freeze?
It feels like you're limited by mana too much if you play the Field Contact Foxy Fraud this turn. What about... Okay.
Well, it does pressure the mage going into a turn where they usually don't have a way to deal with pressure, right? They could kill one thing. I guess the Brain Freeze here does allow for Monsanto to just clean the board too.
Right. That does kind of depend on whether or not Language Hacker has tools in his deck like a Shooting Star, but he does not, because we know that he's playing instead, say, the deck of Lunacy.
Ooh! Woo! Really needed that. Otherwise, did not have a great way to deal with the field contact outside of pinging and then hoping Devolving Missiles could hit the field contact outside of that. So probably going to have to Apexis Blast this field contact just to stop the draw from Monsanto. Okay, Baron's Blacksmith, not bad.
So Monsanto could answer right back, actually, with the Vanessa Van Cleef and the Shadow Step. Is it worth, or would you rather go for another play involving anything from Secret Passage, just dumping your hand right now? It's a little bit awkward because you would want to use Prize Plunder at the end of all your cards that you play with Secret Passage, but you can't really Shadow Step and keep the Prize Plunder, then play Secret Passage and all these other cards. Monsanto is going to go for an Apexis Blast off the Vanessa Van Cleef. The question is, does he even want to cast to the face? Maybe he just plays...
I think he could just Prize Plunder and then, yeah, hold on to a Apexis Blast for burn. Because he could do this, then Prize Plunder, and that's 4, so he would have to dagger, but has the mana to be able to do it.
I like it.
Yep. Yeah, presents a wide board, gives him another burn spell to the hand, and next turn he has Secret Passage to reload. Free Secret Passage, 6 mana available means could find Jandis.
Wait, how nutty is this Reckless Apprentice? Pretty good.
It's quite good. It is quite good. Not as good as it is when you play it in Rogue, but very good.
I wonder.
I can take.
I mean, fire your hero power at all enemies. It doesn't kill off the Foxy Fraud. It eliminates 6 power on the board. I mean, it dealt 7 damage on its battle cry. When a 4-mana card, 4-mana 3/5 says deal 7 damage. Pretty nuts. All right. Well, Devolving Missiles just ends up transforming the Foxy Fraud, powering it down. Monsanto finds the Secret Passage, or rather, the Guardian Aug Merchant has to think about the Secret Passage here. Wants to hold onto the Pex's Blast for burn. Finds Mancrick.
Whoa!
Steve Cult Neophyte. All solid things to pick up here. I'm wondering if we even want to play Mancrick in this spot. Think so?
Yeah, I guess you could start with Wand Thief, see what you get. If you get a resource generator, you can play it all. No, you can't. I would say Conjure Mana Biscuit's like, oh, just gain 2 mana. Nah, it doesn't work.
You just have to pay 2 mana.
You just have to pay 2 mana, yeah.
I wonder if it's still something to consider, though, right? Because whatever you get off the one thing from Secret Passage, you keep, and maybe there's an opportunity to use 2 mana later on, where you could use for Alexstrasza combos, for example. You can Alexstrasza, then Conjure Biscuit, play a Tenmu. You don't need any discount. That's so far down the line, though. The more I talk about it, the less I like it. Well, never mind. Ends up finding the Alexstrasza. 2 more draws in. I mean, Swindle does end up being pretty consistent to find certain minions that you're looking for because it just tutors for it. Alas.
Okay, well, lnguagehackr on a clock here, and this turn gonna have to play with the original mana costs because of the Cold Neophyte. Really not much going for him.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly weak pan out, and it goes back to something that you were highlighting, something that we like to beat the drum to very often, which is the mana ramp is fantastic, but you need to have follow-up plays. That by itself won't win you the game. Does a lot of the time, though, because there's so much inherent card draw built in, and there's ways to generate ways to draw cards.
What to do?
Ring toss. lnguagehackr feeling like maybe I have to find a way to be defensive here. Looking for Ice Barrier, perhaps. Oasis Ally is it the strongest? Uh-oh. Spaghettios.
Yeah, lnguagehackr's gonna die. Well, just the secrets being up could cause Monsanto to play a little bit inefficiently, given the secrets. But a face attack always happens. Ooh, that little bit of excitement when you attack and Ice Barrier doesn't proc. You're like, wow, this game's gonna be really easy. Yes, Monsanto. Yes, it is. He's got 12 damage currently, 1 damage off of lethal. Trying to decide, is it worth to try and go for that? Because, well, actually, no, he probably won't be able to. Without Ice Barrier, you know, Counterspell, Netherwind Portal, Oasis Ally, all things that he's considering of the implications of.
Yeah, I think I'd rather play stuff like the Guardian Aug Merchant right now to see what kind of secrets it could be, because if it is Counterspell, we need to find a way to deal with that. So if you play the Guardian Aug Merchant, if you know Mirror Entity, then you can Brain Freeze and proc the spell. Oh, he's going to Hero Power and pass after attacking with everything. Okay. He still has an opportunity to get it done. There is this weird world, though, where there's no minions on the board left, and Monsanto has no way to actually test Counterspell. And then all of a sudden he can't actually win if he gets counterspelled.
Well, it does have Alexstrasza just to win on 9 no matter what
Yeah.
in this case.
That's in 2 turns.
Yeah, but can Language Hacker kill him in 2 turns? I mean, maybe.
Well, I'm starting to think if Language Hacker should just play Deck of Lunacy and say, I need to draw Libram next turn. Libram of Hope.
Yeah. Well, right now, I mean, he needs to draw something right now to just stay alive. So, even on board. Blessing of Kings?
He had a Firebrand. I kind of was expecting that. But maybe he just felt like that wasn't consistent enough with what the game plan was to survive.
Oh, 0 mana something? Nope.
Yeah, he knows about the Apexis Blast, so that was the reason why. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for game number 2. It was a really tough spot regardless. And, very good insight on both ends here where Monsanto recognizes that he has a very high chance of just dragging this out inevitably over Language Hacker. Language Hacker remembering what cards Monsanto had in the hand. It was just difficult because he knew the secrets on his side, so he had to go for a desperation draw. And so with that, the series is tied, and Rogue gets the job done.
Yeah, but now Language Hacker gets to turn to Rush Warrior, which is one of the best matchups against Rogue. So that's the prize, the treasure for winning that game 1 mirror matchup is now you get the opportunity to counter queue. So gets to stay 1 step ahead of Monsanto. So still, there's a huge mountain to climb for Monsanto to win this series.
Right, we're only just getting started in this best of 5. Spell Mage already eliminated on both ends, both trading it, but now Language Hacker gets the picker's advantage. Can choose to play the Warrior into the Rogue. A lot of people appreciate that matchup from Warrior's side because they feel like it has such good opportunities to wrestle tempo away from Rogue and constantly one-up on them. So Rogue develops a couple of small minions. You have your own bumper car, or you have your Samuro and whatnot to wipe and develop afterwards. Rinse and repeat until Rogue just dies. So Language Hacker going to queue that up immediately here.
Yep, and for Rogue, it's, I mean, I hate boiling it down to it, but in order to kind of stay ahead of Rush Warrior, you kind of got to have Octobot openings, right? It just feels like if you don't have an Octobot opening, you're fighting straight up. You'll probably get through the first couple turns with the board. You know, maybe you'll even be able to, like, Kazakus to stay ahead. But then there will come a time where the Rush Warrior just overwhelms and lets you stick nothing on the board. And that's what Rogue relies on. They rely on that chip damage in the mid-game from their minions in order for their bursts and their combos later on to have any type of meaningful effect. So we shall see. I don't see an Octobot in this opening hand. Language Hacker's hand's not that great himself. Parade Leader on the play does have some likelihood of sticking as Rush Warrior. But he's not keeping anything alongside it. So he'd be hoping just for a high upside. I'm not sure. If you look at like the mulligan win rates of these cards, they're not particularly good against Rogue. You're looking for like an Imprisoned Gnarg, the 1-cost spells, Bakara decent, Crab Rider decent, Conditioning decent as well. So not a terrible hand.
Not bad at all.
Not the best, but could be a whole lot worse. It's got playable cards. Doesn't have Alex, doesn't have Troublemaker. Playable cards.
Part of me feels like Warrior does have time, though, because Rogue is amassing these resources, and they have large comeback potential. But it's only a small window. It's not like the biggest where you can wait like you're a priest player. You have to eventually find a way to burst onto the scene as well. Man, Monsanto's hand is
Oh, this is
real
good.
good.
This is just the juice.
Efficient is sufficient.
Playing the efficient Octobot early. Can activate it with the Guardian Og Merchant and Swindle next turn. Could end up even greeting it further by playing Foxy Fraud into Swindle if his opponent has a weak turn in reaction to it. Tough spot for a language hacker right now.
Yeah, it could just go like Crab Rider, attack in, next turn Rakara. To like take back the board. But what he's worried about is Monsanto having a really good tempo play in the meantime. Because then his hand just doesn't do anything versus a board that's already developed. Because there's always like that risk, right? When you're playing against efficient Octobot, like, do they have a way to activate it? Is it better for me to just activate it so they can't curate their hand to go for it? Conditioning is only +1/+1, and with the +1/+1, there is still no way for Rush Warrior to kill a Octobot on curve without giving it its effect.
Can you get away with it? Can you get away with greeting even further?
I think so. There's no way for Language Hacker to punish him. It'd have to have been like an athletic studies on 1 into a conditioning on 2. Then he could have a chance to kill it. But the Rush minions that cost 3 mana or less, Crab Rider won't kill it without activating it. Upper Card won't kill it without activating it. And that's it. Rakara won't kill it without activating it. It's only a 3/4.
But it could end up improving to a 4-attack minion if Rakara comes down, trades into Foxy Fraud, and makes it difficult for Monsanto to activate. Maybe in Language Hacker's mind, Monsanto doesn't have an activator. The alternative would be just to play the Imprisoned Gnarg and chill, I feel like.
Yeah?
Is there a different line? Tent
Not that
Trasher
seems
can't
particularly appealing.
because Tent Trasher can't get discounted here.
I'm not too young to fight.
Okay. Challenging, but Monsanto does have the Guardian Og Merchant ready to go. That plus a dagger. Good enough to get the job done.
Yep. Monsanto's still looking for a little bit better follow-up to with the field contacts, but with having both of them reduced, he could have a lackluster first field contact and then just have like a more powerful second one once he cycles a little bit and finds better things to hit with it.
Trying to think if there's an alternative here, if Monsanto can find a way to greed even further. I don't think so. I think we're starting to enter the territory where he doesn't want to bite off more than he can chew. If he doesn't get the ability to get his hand discounted and all of a sudden powerful stuff starts coming out, he might be in trouble. So Language Hacker has a Sword Eater ready to go on 4. Any other play that could convince me of not playing the Sword Eater? I don't think so. Prison Gnarg does the same thing as Sword Eater, but slower and weaker stats. Crab Rider only gets better, especially if he has Rumthok in the hand to buff his hand further.
Yep.
So, seems like it's just a Sword Eater turn here.
What now?
Yeah, makes sense. There is a possibility Sword Eater, Tent Trasher will cost 4, and then next turn, Crab Rider, Tent Trasher can come down for 3 if Sword Eater sticks. So that's a chance for some big potential tempo. I like it.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a sizable minion. I often kind of forget that Sword Eater buff by a conditioning or Runthok is quite powerful to deal with, right? It's just 3/6 minions, a lot of stats. So from Monsanto's perspective, what are you thinking about? Are you considering a secret passage right here to try and find answers to?
Yeah, could also go with just Mancrick. But I think he might be worried about just losing the board too much if that's the play.
Many options.
Because there's really no way for him to fit in Tenwu here. Unless he were to go like Field Contact Tenwu the Octobot and replay the Octobot, that would only draw one card.
Okay, yeah, I can buy it. So the Mancrick right now is just, it improves his plays moving forward. It's the best strong minion that he can have, and he wants to wait for all the upgrades for his wicked stab and just collect better cards for his Field Contact. This gives a little bit of breathing room for Language Hacker and time to set up as best as he'd like. There's a lot of powerful stuff that he can be doing here.
Yeah, right now. Oh, go ahead.
So the first thing I'm thinking about is Runthok because of the amount of buffs that you can get. Get Crab Rider stronger. Crab Rider can help answer the board from the Rogue. It's looking good so far.
Still isn't like the definitive. Like starter card for Field Contact.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
But I guess it. Oh, he can go Tenwu Mancrick. Okay. I was focused tunneled on the Tenwu Prize Plunder, but this is actually quite good because it'll come back for 1 mana. And then he will be able to clear something off. Prize Plunder again.
That's nice. Prize Plunderer.
Looking for Shadow Step.
Yeah, but then you can Secret Passage if you want for it.
Yep.
I like it.
He didn't hit it.
Full plays.
Just by his facial expression, he didn't hit it.
It was a good try.
Yeah.
It's a good try. I don't think you're like really thinking that this will end up being a secret passage, or rather a shadow step off the secret passage, but you certainly should give it your best effort.
Yeah.
All right, so Language Hacker finds the Crab Rider, or rather the Sword Eater #2. I was kind of eyeing Crab Rider and how powerful it can be this turn as well. Crab Rider will also incidentally activate the Tent Trasher as well because it's a Murloc, and so the tribe that it buys by, or the Murloc tribe will give the discount to the Tent Trasher, and you get full maximum tempo opportunity here.
Yep. And that is a lot of stats for Monsanto to have to chew through on the following turn. Let's have 2 Ogres in his deck. So Field Contact plus all of this stuff that's in his hand. If it pulls an Ogre or 2, maybe there's a fighting chance. Because the cards that he has in his hand are actually quite good, right? Has 6 mana next turn. This hand that we're looking at costs 6. And it's all ways to clear the board / draw cards. So only a fight essentially useless against Rush Warrior. Not that many spells to be played, and they always have other options besides the spells. Time to just go.
Field Contact. Probably a Brain Freeze. You're always going to be playing a card like Brain Freeze. I guess the Aug Merchant just helps give that startup of the Field Contact, and you might be able to pick Brain Freeze better spot to go down this turn. 2 Brain Freezes. So that means that Prize Plunderer could be at maximum 4 this turn, unless a Shadow Step's being drawn here from Brain Freeze. The other one?
Yeah, because then can prize plunder and dagger.
Yes. If you'll take the 3, you do not want to take 4. That makes a lot of sense here. So, turn number 7 for Language Hacker, trying to get closer to that Alex Strauss finish. Oh my goodness gracious. Blademaster Samuro off the top. You can see that Language Hacker was excited by that pickup as well. That is the one card that he was looking for right now to answer this board state. What a huge draw for Language Hacker. That's got to be devastating here for Monsanto. You can see the slow blink, the Monsanto Classic. He is devastated right now.
One thing, though, is Language Hacker is running a little bit light on resources.
I mean, he's light on resources, but the Prison Garnarg and the Sword Eater is 12 damage of weapon swings plus the Alex Straza. So,
well,
in terms of just a raw amount of damage over the course of 2 turns, he's going to get there.
Well, it's he would have to play the Sword Eater because the Sword Eater will come down next turn. He'll only have time to swing with it once. The timing doesn't work out well enough for the Imprisoned Garnarg. So yes, if all those weapon attacks go face,
what can you do if you're Monsanto? Are you trying to just build up your board with the Wildvine as best as you can? Are you just trying to summon a copy for maximum board tempo? This is tough. Wicked Stab to kill off the 10 trash. You just can't take that damage.
Yep. All things considered, not terrible, but Language Hacker still needs like one more decently sized minion. And
there you
Athletic Studies could find it.
Okay. That's another opportunity for a big minion to come down right now.
10 Trasher can be played because he'll get the Athletic Studies discount, which will bring it to 4. Sword Eater will then bring it to 3. So he could Sword Eater and Tent Trasher. Tent Trasher trade over, Weapon Swing goes face.
Okay, that sounds great to me. I like that.
It will be
especially since you're trying to
overridden. Yeah, it will be overridden by the Imprisoned Garnarg the following turn, but I think that's fine, right? Still a 3/6, still buffed.
Definitely. If it's an opportunity to close out in this way, I am all for it. I think Language Hacker has to weigh if he wants to use his own weapon or keep his minion as healthy as possible. I think this kind of situation is really tricky because, you know, you obviously want to get damage to the face and don't want to be inefficient with the weapon swing, so ends up taking the trade, pushing the damage. Either way, a really tough spot for Monsanto. He needs to deal with the board, and even if he deals with the board, there's still weapons plus the Alex Strauss in hand. I think based off the way Language Hacker is playing, too, he's been holding that card for quite some time, floating a bunch of mana, just like playing exactly on the right side of his hand for the past few turns. I think he can make that conclusion that his opponent is likely to have Alex Strauss in here. That's just not going to be enough. Wow, what is this?
Yeah,
Absolute garbage.
Exactly Flurry, and it needs to hit exactly the 3/6 and the 5/2.
Shadow Step goes to show you how desperate he is right now. Ice Barrier's a little bit too late. Not enough mana.
Nothing.
That's going to do it. Language Hacker gets the win. Deep sigh of relief. Language Hacker, we talked about going into the series, needs every point that he can muster. Pull himself out deeper from that relegation zone. And every single win gets him closer to that spot. Game number 3 over to the Rush Warrior over the Rogue. And yet, despite that happening, and you can see a sigh of relief from Language Hacker, it is all within the realm of expectation, right? We still believe that this Warrior was going to take down the Rogue And yet, from the intensity that you can see of these players in terms of like Language Hacker's reactions, you would make him feel like he's unfavored, right? Like if you were to guess just off of how he was conducting himself on the webcam, you get the impression that Language Hacker felt like he wasn't favored from that.
Yeah, well, the Octobot opening and not having the greatest opening for Rush Warrior, you know, you're always sweating it a little bit. But ultimately, as long as you're able to make like that one big board that swings back, you're fine. And getting bailed out a little bit by Blademaster Samuro too was a big deal. So it was a lot closer than the matchup win rate would lead you to expect. And now we get to go into a Rush Warrior mirror. And again, an important matchup for Language Hacker, because if he loses, then he's only got his own Miracle Rogue left. And then he's faced with that same matchup, but being on the other side of it. So still a close series, still some series left to be played. And again, when you have mirrored lineups like this, a lot of it does come down to these mirrors, right? Language Hacker got the counter Q advantage by winning the Mage mirror, and now has a one game leeway in the Rush Warrior mirror. But you know, it's he's got a rough matchup on the other side if he does lose and isn't able to close it out here. So we'll see.
We shall see. Monsanto's Rush Warrior. You know, it's pretty much just going to come down to who can grab that early tempo and get those stat buffs before their opponent. As we do want to drop a nice little fun fact. It's the first time, by the way, that Monsanto has played Language Hacker this season, which is quite shocking, right? Just when you think about how there's 16 players and they're playing tournaments every week, surely they would run into each other. But that was a unique matchup that we haven't seen yet. And it could be the fact that both of them are just kind of, you know, middle/bottom of the standings. The fewer games and series you win, the less opportunities you have to match up against other players. So it makes sense, at least in that category. Let's go into game number 4, the Warrior versus that Warrior. Conditioning's on both sides already. Good start, at least for Monsanto. Good enough to keep and move on. What does Language Hacker choose to keep here, though?
It's just conditioning. Yeah.
I was thinking if there was any merit to stage dive at all, considering that's like a way for him to like fill out his mana. But I think that there's just a lot more upside if he finds additional power. Just a second conditioning. Not to Alex Straza, though. That's not great.
No. Now, by the time it's playable, it's going to be huge, but doesn't affect the battle cry. Doesn't affect the battle cry. Yeah. In terms of these guys not playing very often, it's because we don't let the battle for Eastern Canada happen purposefully.
Right.
Just to keep it special.
It's true.
It's a big deal for them.
It is, because not many people fight in Canada, period. So the few times it happens every decade or so, got to make do with it. Humans are drawn to conflict, TJ.
Yeah,
unless you're
they are,
of course.
And there's not many opportunities for Ontario and Quebec to say that they're better at something. Actually, not that there's not many opportunities, but there's not many opportunities for them to say that they're best at something and then have other people care about it.
What now?
Okay, I'll take your word for that. Your wife is from that area of Canada, is that correct? I'll take your
Canadian.
word.
She's Quebecois.
Sweet. Yeah, so I'll just leave it at that. Bumper car. Challenge the parade leader. One way you can get ahead of the stat curve is by playing parade leader that goes unchecked and everything gets a little bit extra damage. You get to trade up anyways. Rush with the ability to trade up with the parade leader is a very powerful effect. You can see immediately one of those cascading effects, which is the bumper car now, is a 3/3 rusher. And those Dark Moon Riders are going to be very difficult to deal with. Language Hacker already on the back foot.
on the back foot, but this matchup is not entirely about the early game, right? Because the only thing in the early game is if you have no answers and your opponent just slams a Rakar on the board, boom, you pretty much lose instantly. But when you're both just kind of assembling resources, playing bumper cars and parade leaders back and forth, you know, whatever. It's about how much resource can you assemble and how many conditionings can you hit to buff those resources. And lnguagehackr feels like he's going to win that battle with double conditioning and Runthak in hand. The only problem is, it's just the Dark Moon Riders that he's buffing that are substantial at all, because Alexstrasza and Troublemaker, while they could be, doesn't help him in like the turns 5 through 7, where, you know, you're really going to get to see a player come back on the board. Oh, that one's good though. Especially with all these buffs. That one is really good.
Yeah, conditioning, Blademaster Samuro, Runthak. I mean, lnguagehackr has all of the ingredients to make this spicy meatball. Requires a lot of powering up of your hand. Got to set the oven to 350. Wait about 7 to 10 minutes. While he's baking this, you know.
And then have uncooked meatballs, because at 350, 7 to 10 minutes is not nearly enough time.
Okay, well, clearly I'm not a chef. Today you learned. I admit it. The last time I cooked, I believe the Whispers of the Old God expansion came out. But,
wow.
Focusing.
That was a long time ago.
It was a while ago. I don't cook, TJ. I don't cook.
Okay.
And trust me, you don't want me to cook. Conversation with the fire department I don't want to have ever again.
For a good time.
Monsanto wins the board back temporarily, but we know that there is some big power about to explode onto the board here.
I must choose.
Yep. Playing it, you know, a little slower, and, you know, obviously the Blademaster Samuro is not primed and ready right now. It's only a 2/7, so can't clear this board. Clear some of the board, but obviously wants to be paired with conditioning. So could conditioning once these Dark Moon Riders would be 4/4 and then take double value trade, but lnguagehackr is starting to take a significant amount of damage.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. One thing that you can't ignore is that there is burst available to Warrior. It's not impossible for them to find a way to just combo you from like 15 life. They have one mean stick, a weapon swing plus Alexstrasza. Troublemaker's additional damage. All right, I'm seeing a way for Monsanto to take a line to just pressure lnguagehackr out of the game here. It's possible.
Summer, not you.
Here for a good time.
It's possible, but the Blademaster is going to make things very difficult.
Yeah. And it's still 3 turns away from Alexstrasza.
Well, this trade is a big deal because the... Oh, never mind. The Blademaster is a... 6.
5?
No,
6, you're
6.
right,
Double.
Runthak.
Right? It was drawn before the Runthak was played.
You are correct.
Or had a chance to attack? Okay.
Can we just agree that it kills everything that...
Yeah, 5 or 6, who cares? Yeah, it's a 6/11. There we go.
We're kind of really agonizing over how he wants to deal with this last trade. Ryder goes in, doesn't want to give up his life total at all, also keep up his weapon swing in case he needs it. Samuro. Card can barely contain his axe. He is popping off, popping out of the card even. That's a 24 damage swing onto the board.
Monsanto
draws.
just looking for a playable card. Okay. Claw machine. All right.
That's huge.
A Prison Gnarg off the top from the claw machine. Nope, Ogremancer. Ugh.
Still okay. I mean, it's not a bad card to have. Yeah, the Sword Eater comes down to 69. Dark Moon Rider comes out as a 6/6. Just starting to get really difficult. I think if I'm Language Hacker, I'm tempted to Hero Power as well, trying to figure out ways to reduce my opponent's outs. I just don't see the value of ETC God of Metal very much right now.
Yeah.
Because he has one rusher on the field in the form of the Dark Moon Rider. He has no rushers from hand. Playing ETC is purely to push a little bit of extra damage. And I'm thinking more specifically how Monsanto could find a series of outs to beat me from this spot. Because if you're Language Hacker, you gotta be feeling like you're super favored from here, right?
Yeah. I don't think does this change the clock? 12, 13, 16, 17, 18. Doesn't change the clock, really. Maybe another minion on board to buffer the attacks.
Oh! TJ!
So now he has to armor up?
That's what I was saying! What? Well, okay, so from his perspective, the ETC God of Metal was actually another target for the Troublemaker to hit.
Yeah.
So, you know, definitely was some give and take there, and I totally identify with that, but this was also another risk. A very unlikely one. And Language Hacker clearly not rattled at all by this.
Yikes. So now he has to armor up and has to kill the Troublemaker? Has to double trade? What in the world? Or just hope Alex isn't there. Monsanto's like, I'm just playing my cards. You figure it out.
That's right. Just, okay.
All right, he's dead.
GG.
Game 5 it is.
Monsanto lives on. The series marches forward to game number 5. On Monsanto, I'd rope it all the way down. Monsanto wins game number 4, and Language Hacker screaming to the walls of his apartment. Come on!
I mean, by how he reacted there, it was almost like someone tried to pet his belly. That's pretty much what happened.
Someone grabbed his tail.
Yeah, someone grabbed his tail.
Like, oh.
Or pet his head for 3 seconds too long.
True.
Come on, man!
That's right. Back and forth we go, and I think what's really devastating about this is this could have been what defined the entire series in a way, right? Like the Warrior Mirror, now that Language Hacker has to play Rogue, could be in a situation where Monsanto gets the win. And lest we remind you, Language Hacker really needs this win. He needs every point that he can get to try to put himself best position to avoid relegation. And a series loss here would be devastating. Of course, punctuated by this Troublemaker going twice to the face.
Yep. And that early damage sticking was actually ended up being a huge deal, right? Like I said, unless you have, like, you stick a board and then you have Rakara and your opponent just has no answer. It's usually about like acquiring resources and then having the big swing. Language Hacker ticked those boxes. He had the resources, he had the big swing, but then Troublemaker just had different plans.
Yeah, just wasn't really careful enough with his life total, and also just got unfortunate end of the stick, right? That was a possibility that the Troublemaker would come down, put him down to 8, and he had to deal with it. And then he also had to navigate a situation where it's like, do I lose too much tempo for not playing the Troublemaker here? He just played the odds, and on both ends of that equation, he ended up getting the raw deal of it. I feel for him, I really do. But we move on into the last game of the series. Love the little clap there at the end by Monsanto, by the way. Trash talk has never been more heated in Hearthstone Grandmasters. Clapping for your opponent.
A sarcastic clap for your opponent who also claps sometimes. Yep. Insane trash talk.
That's right. You don't really pull the punches here in Hearthstone Grandmasters America. It's going to game number 5. Athletics to start things off. lnguagehackr has a pretty good opening hand. Efficient Octobot. Foxy Fraud, Wand Thief, Wicked Stab. I think Efficient Octobot is the only thing that makes me feel like I want to keep. Kind of open to the idea of the Foxy Fraud, Wand Thief combo, though, because it does give you a lot of opportunities to pick up really good resources to get ahead of the Warrior, because Efficient Octobot, as we know, is one of the keys to unlocking this matchup to be a rogue win. He ends up keeping it. Okay.
I must choose.
Probably Rikara. I am just struggling to find a particularly good use for the other cards, especially in this matchup.
One's too fast, one's too slow.
Sufficient.
Kara is just right. Well, the good news is that Monsanto doesn't have to play anything. Bad news is that's an Efficient Octobot on the other side. That's just one of the best cards in Rogue available.
I wonder.
Yep. And a decent hand to follow it up. lnguagehackr, though, doesn't have the field contact, which is the ultimate one, especially with a hand like this. But still has some good tempo tools, which can sometimes just get you there against Rush Warrior if you manage to stick some damage early on.
Kind of down to just pass here for Monsanto.
Yeah.
There's still no real reason. I can totally understand the need to get the discount now because, you know, he was in a position actually himself where he held his own resources to get the discount, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, you know, I think from Monsanto's perspective, you really want to start thinking about what is the reason you're favored, right? And the reason you're favored a lot of times is because you can answer the road. They can discount all they want, but they're not going to deal with your additional stats, right?
Choose soon.
Yeah, you don't always have to get miles ahead of them in the early game. Obviously, it helps if you get a little bit ahead. But you don't have to feel like you're in like this huge rush to storm onto the board. Especially in a situation like this where nothing seems particularly good. Like this turn, he could just go Imprison Gnarg, Hero Power. Next turn, if he's really worried about Octobot discounts, he could just 10 Trasher over it. If not, you just Overlord Runtak, keep it as is, trade something off the board, and again, go for that big swing.
You don't have to laugh at your own jokes. I'll laugh with you next time. I got you.
You cannot stop my work.
I apologize. I dropped the ball there.
I dropped the ball. I didn't quite realize it was a joke until you laughed at it.
I don't know, man. It's one of those things where we gotta develop. You just gotta trust me, man. I got you. I will laugh at you. I promise.
That's why I laugh at my own jokes, because I'm worried that nobody's gonna realize that that's what it was.
I don't feel like I ever heard Lorinda laugh before. Just putting it out there. He does say a lot of jokes. That dry British humor.
His laugh sounds a lot like him just talking.
Now I have to go back and see if there's any proof that Lorinda is indeed capable of laughing at TJ's jokes, which the jury's out on that. In the meantime, Language Hacker, in this situation, still no way to activate his efficient Octobot, but has ways where he can potentially start interfering with his opponent.
Technically, he does. He could brain freeze it. But it's not particularly enticing.
True.
At the moment. All right, a tough decision again for Monsanto. He is getting the weapon from Imprisoned Gunnar. Turns to Sword Eater's not an option. I think it's between 10 Trasher and Overlord Runtak. 10 Trasher to trade over the Octobot without giving it value, and then or Overlord Runtak to, really drive home the stat advantage in hand.
Yeah, I like the shutdown on the stats or the discount first from the 10 Trasher. You think about the ways Rogue can win. You shut off one of those paths, or at least you just make it a little bit more difficult, right? You're not shutting it off completely because they could have another Octobot. But yeah, it's a very good start for Monsanto. Then from Language Hacker's perspective, you just go back to the drawing board here. Foxy Fraud into the Swindle.
Probably. And with a brain freeze and a trade, it's still a relatively wide board. I think he's still in an okay spot, all things considered.
Nog Merchant just a little bit too late. However, in Language Hacker's defense here, what is the meaning? Like, there's not that much power to be gained from this double Sacred Passage going to 0 mana, right? You only can play one at a time anyways, so squeezing them in the same turn is not necessarily going to be the case here. So having a discount in a hand like this wasn't going to be that powerful anyways. And from Monsanto's end, I mean, this is where he's just going to really start making it hurt. Oh, yeah. Language Hacker has to draw something big here, and if not, he has to get something nice off the Secret Passage. Otherwise, he's just going to fall too far behind right now. The alternative is to him to start thinking about direct damage as the win condition. Did get his opponent down to 18. He has 6 power on the board, so 12 is the difference maker. A lot harder to get than you think, though.
Yeah, still feels like it's a long ways away.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. I feel like this is a really sketch spot that's super hard to break.
Come, friend. Let's see what you've got.
Is it this time already using Tenbu for additional value as opposed to being able to close out the damage? Spot where a lot of Rogue players are all too familiar with against the Warriors. Finds a Flame Strike. And that is one way.
That could be good.
Yeah, to win back the board, but I mean, what if your Flame Strike doesn't even kill?
Yeah. No conditioning has been played, so it's likely to be able to clear everything up on turn 7 regardless. And it does give him an excuse to kind of throw everything to face and not really worry about the minions on board, knowing that it's on Monsanto to be the one who's trading.
This Playmaker is going to be hard to stop just by itself. And then you just insert the fact that these bumper cards are just going to start trading everything.
For a good time. Here for a
This is looking really bad from Language Hacker right now.
Yeah, these secret passages are going to have to be pretty huge. Or he's just going to have to find a ton of burn.
Yeah, damage. Damage is the key. Damage and time. That being said, I'm very confident that Monsanto can get the damage going. Alexstrasza appears in the hand. Okay. Maybe if Language Hacker gets a discount of some sort on the Alexstrasza. Swindle. Okay. Maybe.
Do you ever dump Wicked Stab here? I don't know about that.
Maybe? 1, 2, 3 cards played this turn if he plays the 2-drop plus the Prize Plunderer. Shadow Step gives it ability to be used and kill off that board, but he does lose the ability to draw Shadow Step for some kind of damage. Now they really use Tenwu.
Choose soon.
Tough spot here for Language Hacker. Part of me feels like I have to deal with this Playmaker because that's the way a 2-turn lethal gets set. Yeah. I
Even
agree
with the
this.
Flame Strike on the other side, this feels pretty rough.
Yeah, because if the opponent plays too much stats, the Flame Strike is too expensive to clean everything up. So I get it. And I mean, he has a good reason to. Look, that's an Ogremancer that's so big. It's a 48.
I wonder if he plays the Ogremancer here, because I feel like that's one of the only ways that Language Hacker has to try and come back in the series, or in the game, is to try and play a bunch of spells. Maybe he's worried about field contact, in which Ogremancer's not that reliable. But this is exactly what Language Hacker wanted to see, is Brakara committed, because it's not any more immediate damage on the board. And it does open up Flame Strike. But maybe Monsanto, if he's thinking about wanting Flame Strike, right? That he's okay with this, because then he gets to play Troublemaker. Yeah, he nods, says, okay. I was ready for this.
Yep. And the offensive starts, and the Sword Eater surviving just barely. A huge deal.
You gonna cry?
And now Language Hacker does not have the time to play the Alexstrasza. Just a couple turns ago, he's at 30 life. Now I think he has to use the Shadow Step to kill off this Troublemaker. With the 2 prize Plunderers, you can play Cold Neophyte, Plunderer, Plunderer. This is card number 3. 4, 5 would be the 2 prize Plunderers, and then Alexstrasza closes it out. He's dead. Unless Secret Passage can change something.
Nah, it can't.
Look what I want! Give me that! Look what I want!
Fishing, hoping. Maybe Secret Passage can pull something out from the deck.
Is to clear the board and heal? Okay, Wicked
I
Stab.
don't think so. Oh, it was pretty close, actually, you know. Still, he actually found the damage, doesn't have enough mana.
Give me that!
And that's going to close out the series. Monsanto does it again. Wins the top 8 match, goes to the top 4. And what is a close series back and forth, very grueling. You can see Language Hacker feels a little defeated here at this point, slumping back, kind of recognizing that if his opponent has Alexstrasza on 9 once more,
Well played.
that the series is over. And that's going to do it. Language Hacker will have to wait for another week, chance to guarantee that he avoids relegation.
I'm sorry, it's a sad moment because that's a huge loss for Language Hacker, but he got up and threw his hands in the air and his tail wiggled. And it just got me. It just got me. I'm so sorry, Mihai. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it is a big loss because that means he's locked in at 7 points going into the last week. He is not in the relegation zone. Muncie, Briarthorn, and Impact are all still bottom 3, but you still can't feel confident being 1 point ahead of that relegation zone of the bottom 3 players. There's a chance he could be tied with Killing All Day, but Killing All Day is guaranteed 7 points right now and has a chance to still win in his series in the day today. So, not great.
Not great at all. Language Hacker just felt like he had nothing really going on, and of course, very frustrated by the fact that this is a tough situation for him to be in. Gets up, Language Hacker uses Tail Whip. It was not very effective.
It's so small. Why is it so small? Oh my gosh, it's just like
cuter that way.
is
Humans have
it?
this thing where the smaller it is,